Okay, you should be set.
Okay, thanks so much, Summer. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our regular City Council meeting. It is 7:02 p.m. on May 26, 2020. We have just concluded a workshop, and so on our agenda, we are on item number 2. I'll call this meeting to order. And Summer, please take us through a roll call attendance.
Okay. I have Emily Niehaus, Mayor, Ronnie Darasari, Moab City Council, Tawny Knutson-Boy, Moab City Council, Carly Castle, Assistant City Manager, Joel Linares, City Manager, Kaylin Jones, Moab City Council, Karen Guzman-Newton, Moab City Council, Clint York, Finance Director, Lori Simonson, City Attorney, and Mike Duncan, Moab City Council. And in the waiting room, we do have Jen Sadoff that will be providing an update later in the agenda.
Thank you so much, Summer. We're on to number 3, approval of the minutes. We have 3-1 minutes from May 8th, 2020, a special City Council meeting, and 3-2 minutes from May 12th, 2020, our regular City Council meeting. Is there a motion? Ronnie?
I can move to approve the minutes of May 8th and May 12th. I just had one little thing I sent to Summer for May 12th. I don't know if anyone else had things.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yeah. Tawny is a second. So Ronnie stated her comments there. Does anybody else have any additions or edits for those meetings? Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Karen.
Aye, here.
Tawny.
Aye.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Kaylin.
Yes.
Mike.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Minutes approved. To take a moment to recognize those, recognize Memorial Day was yesterday, and recognize those who gave their lives serving our country. I thought we could just take a moment of silence to honor them here together. Thank you. And thanks to all of the people who gave their lives. It's good to remember what Memorial Day is about. Now moving on, let's see. I've been working with staff to prepare an implementation of this idea called the Market on Center, where Moab City is looking to support a new market where we are going to host vendors, food, craft, prepared food vendors, have music, and have a cool community scene for our locals and for visitors as they come. We are definitely looking to implement this once restrictions are lifted due to coronavirus. So stay tuned on that. Big news, as you all know, I wrote the letter asking a couple weeks ago, asking for more PPE for our visitors and for our employees, and the outdoor gear industry and the Governor's Office of Economic Development really showed up for us. We are certainly loved. People, people really were looking for ways to help us as a community. And so providing us with face masks to get us through Memorial Day week and weekend was a sure awesome way to do it. And so I just wanted to thank everybody here. DPS Skis, they were really the first to show up. They came down, Mike Cannon with DPS Skis came down and delivered disposable masks and those really cool Goal Zero buffs that I've been seeing everybody in town wear, specifically for locals. That was just such an awesome gift. Teton Sports and Gregory Mountain Products for the disposable, and Petzl, all those companies coming together. And then of course, the governor and his Office of Economic Development, and in particular, the Utah Office of Tourism and the Office of Outdoor Recreation. Super grateful to all of them. So they said there were 75,000 masks, but really there were 85,000 because they deployed another 1,000 to other sectors within Grand County. So the encouraging thing too is that because of our ask, they really looked to all of the hotspot gateway communities and deployed masks, across Utah. So how great is that? So that visitors that want to wear masks can wear masks. And I'm grateful to the Copy Center for helping us with distribution. Teresa and her staff were very grateful to do that. There are still masks at the Copy Center. And so any businesses that ran through their supply or want, more to get through this week and weekend can head to the Copy Center, and the Copy Center will hold them until they're out. I received word from Elaine Gisler today that the Park Service is not willing to distribute masks to visitors. And so what that means is that we have more masks to distribute in town, locally. So that means there's plenty of masks for businesses. No one should feel like they have to grab a bunch and hoard. These masks really are for every one of us. On Monday, I got a call from Brendan at City Market saying, "We got 2 more boxes, sis. We're almost out." So I ran over a big box of 1,000 to him so that they were stocked through Monday. So I'm really grateful that people are using them, and there's plenty to hand out. And so they will be located at the city center. And we did decide, as you're all aware, that a booth really wasn't necessary on Main Street because all of the businesses were essentially handing them out for us. So, and for themselves and for visitors. So that was great. I've heard a lot of really positive feedback. And both from visitors and from businesses. And then also, I just wanted to point out too that I learned a lot when I was delivering. So when we first got the shipment from the outdoor industry and before masks were at the Copy Center, I went, started at the top of town and went through town and hit the groceries and the gas stations and certain businesses, especially the businesses serving food. And I really feel like I learned a lot from the businesses with respect to the mask policy. And I think, I guess what I have to say is that sometimes we hear, people anti-mask seems to be very loud sentiment, but I really do think that our businesses have embraced wearing the masks. Nobody likes wearing masks. They're very uncomfortable. But they've embraced that to ensure that their employees and visitors feel safe. So it was great. I was a little nervous. What else? I'm still meeting with Joel and Carly weekly. The Governor's Office of Economic Development did put out a commercial rental assistance grant program. Karen, you talked about it at our last meeting. I think there's definitely still money available. In my subcommittee meeting with others, I was able to explain why it was difficult for Moab businesses to apply for that commercial rental assistance. I reiterated that a couple of things. One is that Moab businesses are going to need help in a few months. Like right now, the PPP has really stabilized our community for just this moment. And so I did reiterate that. And that also, there was a little grant confusion, I think, where people were like, "Oh, I've already applied for that." And it's like, no, this was actually a separate grant available. So they have been trying to push to businesses that this is a different, trying to market this as a different grant. But also they're going to be looking at, depending on how much money is still available in that grant pool, changing some of those grant guidelines. So hopefully I'll be able to report that guidelines have changed and Moab businesses that rent might be able to apply for this like second tranche that might be coming up. But anybody that rents, any business that rents should definitely go ahead and attempt to apply. Put in an application and just get the feedback from, for whether they can. Yeah, Karen. Yeah.
Yeah, so the application, when people went to go fill it out, that go ahead showed that it was going to be 2 to 3 days and monies would be distributed. Just I got some feedback that just last Friday, which is almost 3 weeks after the fact, they're just now acknowledging people's receipt of their applications and saying, hang on, we're getting to it. We're inundated and we'll get to you. But things are processing a lot slower than I think that what they expected originally.
Okay, I can talk to them about that application processing. Okay. Thanks for that
Which
feedback.
office is it through, Emily?
What, say that again?
Which office is it through?
Governor's Office of Economic Development. And so I think if somebody goes to utah.gov business, COVID business something.
Yep.
Yeah, then they'll find the link to that.
I can find it.
And it's Commercial Rental Assistance Program. Acronym is crap. It's like the worst acronym ever. So don't look for the acronym. What else? Word of congratulations to our seniors. And also a special word of congratulations to all of the parents schooling from home. Hardest job ever. This has been a very hard third trimester of school for all of us. And I just want to, shout out to all of the parents that have been schooling from home, that have not only been having to work from home, but then school from home and then stay sane in all of it. Congratulations to all the seniors and all the parents that are graduating and celebrating the end of this school year that feels like it lasted 10 years. So big congratulations. Let's see. And then one more thing. So I sent everyone, let me pull it up here. Sent everyone an email, and it looks like County Attorney Christina Sloan followed up with some additional information to all of you. So she has drafted a letter in coordination with the Park Service in support of the superintendent moving forward with a timed entry system. Let's see, let me just try to pull this up here. Oh, geez. Well, so I just wanted to oh gosh, too many emails. Let's see. So we received the letter from Christina, and I forwarded it all to you. So what we need to determine tonight is if we would like to participate in a joint meeting on Friday to sign a letter in support of that system. And so the proposed meeting date is Friday, this Friday, 5/29 at 10 a.m. The hoster of the Zoom will be Grand County, I assume. And so the question is who all of our council can attend, and shall we go ahead and move forward with noticing that meeting?
I can be there.
I can
I
be
have
there.
to be done by 1. I have a hair appointment.
I can be there too.
Okay. Karen?
Just on Friday, we have our walk around for the Arches Hotspot downtown meeting. So that's from 8 to 10. So hopefully we'd be finished up at 10.
Oh. Would it be better if she has already put in place for Casey to present the proposed timed entry system, and it's a temporary timed entry system. So,
Gotcha.
well, hopefully you'll be done by 10 because I do think that Casey's planning to prepare. So I think that would be difficult to change that time.
Yeah, no, I mean, so Curtis is the chair of that. I mean, so he should be aware that that meeting's happening, and then just Kaylin and Mike are also a part of the, I don't know if they were planning on doing the walk around or not, but that was just noticed from Carly recently. So just want to put
That'll
that.
be a good incentive, Karen, to get Curtis to make sure the walk around is finished in 2 hours. That'd be great.
Yep.
Okay.
I can't make it to that meeting, Mayor, but Carly will cover that meeting.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm grateful that we're able to set that. So Summer, we'll need to please have you just get with the county and maybe Joel to notice the meeting and for the corresponding documents that we should put in, that they've put in their notice for that meeting as well. And anything else I might have forgotten about it. Okay, that's it for me. Sorry, that was longer than I was hoping to be. And Ronnie.
I will try to shorten my items. Just as a reminder, we were going to have an UMTRA steering committee meeting today, but we decided to cancel that meeting, and our next one is scheduled for July. I do have an email update, but rather than getting into it here, I'll just send it to you guys. So if you're interested, you can read that. We had an EMS board meeting on the 18th of May. And without reading too much detail, I know you guys like numbers. So sorry about the head cock, but I'm going to read from my other computer. So April was significantly slower with about a 40% decrease in calls, but then May really picked up. And they were thinking things might normalize by the end of the month. Overall, at this point, we're just down 4% from last year. And then just in terms of the board, the department has been working at cutting the budget given our anticipated losses, which we're thinking are going to be about 400,000. They've been continuing to work on the new building and working with the county because the MBA, which I'm going to forget the acronym from now for the minute. Is it the Municipal Building Authority? I apologize if I've got that wrong, but the county's involved with that, which ties into the CIB loan. And because the county owns the property that the EMS Special Service District is building the building on, the county plays a pivotal role in the CIB loan and needing to make sure that EMS is going to be able to make their payments. So the first loan payment is going to be due in October of 2021. So they asked some good questions about how the district thought we might be able to make that payment. And of course, it's a ways off and there are a lot of unknowns. But I think they were pleased with the information we sent them about how carefully we're looking at the budget and some of the things EMS has been working on cutting. Just so everyone knows, it's kind of a delicate balancing act because you want to make sure you have enough staff to be able to fulfill the service, but at the same time, we're cutting where we can. And so like one of the things that happened early on is they cut the third ambulance, but then as we picked up in town, all of a sudden we needed the third ambulance more. So things are being adjusted as they need to be. I think the staff and the board is doing a good job. There was a county public hearing for the bond on May 19th. And there's an audit going on, and I don't know if you really care about this other stuff. So I will leave that at that. I know just locally, some people have had ties in other parts of the country, concerns about the multi-system inflammatory syndrome that's affecting children with COVID. I did ask about that. And there is an EMS group that focuses on children, and our local EMS does have someone who sits on that. And they said there's education going on to educate people about that. So we should be hearing more. Okay, that is that. On the 20th of May, we had a System of Care Regional Advisory Council meeting for Grand and San Juan counties. And that again is the group of healthcare providers, law enforcement, social workers that work to help families stay intact and help bring the services they need to them so that children who are struggling don't have to leave the home and go into residential care. So they have a really great wraparound program. They were explaining that under COVID, it's been difficult because they are used to meeting in person with families, and they've been able to do some in-person meetings socially distanced, but a lot has been online, and that's harder for the children involved. So they are an essential service, and they were explaining, especially now that most of the state has gone to yellow, they're expecting to be able to do more in-person meetings, of course, socially distanced. One quick thing, they had a few things because there's so many care providers from different backgrounds involved in those meetings. I just thought there were a few things that you guys might find it helpful to know, just because a lot of you deal with people out and further afield. So just random things that came in from different communities. They have been lacking a permanent food bank for years in Blanding, but they do have one that people can go to at least weekly again. So that's good news. Here in our county, the school therapists have been continuing to work with as many kids as they can to help them out. We know a lot of our kids went home with Chromebooks. That wasn't possible in some areas of San Juan County, but there were some hotspots, or actually Chromebooks possible, but then no internet in the way that we were able to get it to, from Emory. So there were hotspots made available, which sounds like it worked relatively well. Sometimes you had to walk to get a signal, but let's see. We also now have a addiction psychiatrist in the community who's available through Four Corners in the Hospital, Dr. Prest. So that sounded all very good. Other than that, I shared with the rest of the council Water Now Alliance letter where they're looking for support of a federal distributed infrastructure investment sign-on letter. So that looks good. And I know they've done trainings for the Utah League of Cities and Towns. Other than that, I've been doing emails. I did a online workshop today with Climate Reality Project, discussing some of the similarities and differences between COVID and climate change. That was helpful. And sadly, we all can't go to the Grand Center now for our annual Board and Open and Public Meetings Act training. So I did that online. That was exciting. And I just wanted to thank Orion and Braden from the Health Department, because I've been passing on questions I'm getting from people in the community, and they're very quick to respond. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. I forgot at the beginning of my report, I was going to have Jen join us. So I'd like to ask her to come on now, since she's been waiting and I meant to bring her on sooner. My apologies. Summer, can we bring Jen in? I'm just going to break up our reports for a second to get the CEO of Moab Regional Hospital here with us to provide updates, answer questions. While we're getting Jen in, I will share that I did speak with Orion, that there, as we all know, there are 3 new cases and 4 recovered. And that in terms of enforcement, there was some violations, it seemed, over the Memorial Day weekend. And so the health department is working through reports of those violations. But that was it from the health department. And Orion, sorry he couldn't be here, but Jen can. So welcome to our council meeting here, Jen. Thanks for waiting.
I thought I was watching live, but I wasn't.
Welcome.
Thanks. Well, I'll just, let you know, you can ask me any questions at the end. I will try and answer them as best I can. So at Moab Regional Hospital, We have been increasing the number of patients that we've been seeing in both our clinic and in urgent care. We are still doing telemedicine. We've resumed elective surgeries. We've moved our respiratory evaluation area to the front of the hospital, primarily because we think we'll be seeing patients for the foreseeable future for the next couple of years. So we wanted to do something that was sustainable. We've moved our hotline in-house. We had it sort of bouncing to different nurses, but now we have a nurse staffing that hotline number. That's primarily to help people navigate through where they go for testing, how they seek care, what, if something changes as we move forward and see increased transmission, that allows us to be a little bit more nimble. And it's kind of, we've worked through our plans to sort of take the first 25 patients and then to move into an additional barrack style where we can handle another 21 patients in the building. We've set up models and gone through things and, done as much troubleshooting as we can. We have been working with regional hospitals. So we meet every week with hospitals on the Wasatch Front and hospitals over in Grand Junction to get an update on what their capacity is. And Salt Lake did report last week seeing a bit of an uptick in hospitalizations, but St. Mary's still looks pretty good in terms of capacity. Just a few statistics. This Saturday, Memorial Day weekend, was our busiest day so far this year. It looked just a little under what we typically see this time of year. So it definitely, when we turned back on from our estimation pretty fully of the volume we typically see. In San Juan County, there's 268 cases and 4 deaths. In Grand County, there are 7 cases, 0 deaths. We've also had 0 hospitalizations. In County, I thought some of you might find this interesting. On March 19th, they had 26 cases. On April 19th, they had 316 cases. And then on May 19th, after a solid month of social distancing, they were up to 401 cases. So you can really see what the impact of, closing things down and social distancing can be. So we should probably potentially brace ourselves for a pretty significant number of cases now that things have opened back up. Our goal would be that we would maintain the ability to transfer patients who need transfer. For Moab Regional Hospital, it becomes a crisis when we can't transfer an ICU patient who needs ICU care. We do have telemedicine ICU that we've put in place with the University of Utah, but the standard of care is totally different than you would find in a place with a traditional ICU where they have all of the specialists and all the accompanying equipment available 24/7, 365 days a year, including, ICU trained nurses. So, some people have asked me, why don't we get an ICU here? And it's more than just getting people and machines. It's seeing ICU patients day after day and taking care of them. It's not, something you do once a year and then you're a pro. So we just don't have the volume to have a true ICU in Moab. And it's a disservice to the patients to not get them to a true ICU where all of that supportive care is. In terms of testing, we have done, so there's 2 kinds of tests. There's the PCR test, which tests for current active virus transmission. And we have done 1,043 tests as of today. And we've had 7 positives from that. That's pretty great. Really, that's about 1/10 of our service area. Now that does include a lot of tourists who've taken the opportunity to be tested while they're here in Moab. So it's probably not totally representative of our community population for testing, but it's at least something. We have done 362 antibody tests, or IgG tests, you might hear them called as well. We've had 12 positive antibody tests. Antibodies test for somebody exposure to disease in the past. And usually it takes about 3 weeks to build up antibodies. And that's the PCR test, the first test I talked about. We're more likely to see false negatives. So somebody has the virus, but they don't have enough virus to trigger a positive on the test. With antibody tests, it's more likely that we see false positives. It's some other coronavirus that's triggering it, and not a true exposure. But you know, we're at about 3% of the tests that we've done are showing positive for antibodies, which really tells us that it just has not been in this community yet. So that I think I was really sick in January, February, those cases are turning out to be really not COVID-19. It was something else that was coming through here. The asymptomatic testing is building. That is a program that we're working on in conjunction with the health department to provide the PCR test on a regular basis to people who are working in areas of high risk of transmission. So city market, village market, convenience stores, law enforcement, first responders. If you think you should be on that list, great. We still have capacity. Just get in touch with Doug Kaler at the Free Health Clinic, who we have sort of contracted to manage this program for us, and let him know why you think you should be on that, in that testing program. And as long as we have capacity, we will keep adding people. What that program does is it allows us to early identify asymptomatic spread and then do really good contact tracing. So it will hopefully slow down transmission enough that we can regionally keep capacity at what it needs to be to send people away from here if they need ICU care. I mean, that's our number one goal, is to make sure people who need long-term ventilation and ICU care go have a spot in a facility that can take care of them. What questions can I answer for you all?
Looks like you might be off the hook.
All right, tweeting bird, I'm out.
That was really helpful. That was a lot of information, Jen. I really appreciate it. And thanks to you and your doctors for being, so open with information for our community.
You bet. Well,
One question, Jen, if I may, before you go. So I've read quite a bit about antibody testing and how various techniques have different false positive rates, and the ones that you're using, one might be around 3%. My question is, when providers report and observe a positive antibody result, which we'll just say on a typical week might run, say if it ran 5%, with a test that's known to have a 3% false positive rate, does that provider typically report 5% or 2%?
yeah, you mean report it to, we don't report it to anyone. I'm just sort of letting you know what our rates are. Our test is through the Mayo Clinic. And so it's a pretty reputable antibody test. It is based on a blood draw, but there are still known false positives. And I don't think that we do any kind of adjustment of like, well, we think it could be this percentage that's false, especially when you only have, 12, an N of 12 positives. If we had 1,000, we might be able to adjust, but it's hard to adjust off of 12 at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jen. Thanks for the update.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, Jen.
All right, so we're going to keep meeting here, and thanks for the pause button, Council. We're on to Mike. Still on Council reports.
Okay, thank you. A couple of meetings. The Hotspot Committee meets again tomorrow at the last meeting 2 or 3 weeks ago. We're kind of settling in on two broad possible projects. One of them is just downtown improvements and improvements in parking on off Main Street parking. Kalen has been the most active trying to proselytize, if you will, that approach. In part, we're all on the same board. Some things the city would like to do are things that don't necessarily reduce congestion, but nevertheless, we'd like to do it for our downtown. So we're still working through that. I will add that Karen and I have been proposing dispersed north and south recreation parking, which I admit anyway, that is pretty worthless unless we have some way of shuttling people who park oversized, particularly oversized rigs at those parking lots, and have some way to get downtown. And so I'm going to ask tomorrow Monte if he would consider funding 2 years of, say, operational cost. I have no idea if he's going to do it or not. Karen has also pointed out that the school district may have some facilities that we could contribute a little money into, and maybe UDOT would contribute to that as well, which would serve as a barn and a maintenance facility for just we're just talking about a handful of vehicles. I am anyway, but just to get started. So I'm still working on the transit extended parking idea there. We'll know more tomorrow. There was also a sewer coordination meeting between the city and county that Carly participated in. The big thing there was Obi Tejada, who's running the sewer plant now, reported he's running at 85% of what he calls hydraulic capacity. That's a little unnerving. Obi is trying to, and Chuck both are trying to get in touch with the plant's designers to see if we see what's going on, basically. So there's no reason to get particularly concerned at this time. But so I won't say too much more than that. But the plant. This plant has a different technique for cleaning the water than the old plant did. The old plant had the limit on biological material. This plant has more of a limit on pure water that's going in. So anyway, so we're keeping an eye on that. And finally, some friends on the subject of COVID again who were in the Moab Grill. They told me a few days ago and unnervingly reported that they saw a group of people sitting around who weren't wearing masks. And not that that's all that unusual, it's not. But he reported, and this is secondhand, so I can't tell you if they were overemphasizing it or not. Half of them were coughing. That's what they said. That is a little unnerving to me. So I would encourage the mayor and all of us to encourage business owners to require masks. And if if a large majority of the businesses did that, then they'd kind of level the playing field for businesses here in town, and maybe people would be a little less averse to getting a little more aggressive about enforcing masks in stores. I just in Denver area over the weekend, and I can tell you a lot of businesses are doing exactly that, enforcing masks there. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mike, for that. It's probably worth mentioning. I think that we're just getting the information that the governor has his order that masks are optional for patrons and mandatory for workers, and so his orders supersede the local health departments or anyone's response in that arena. Correct me if I'm wrong, council, but I think that is an issue that is out of our that is a tool that's not in our toolbox.
No, Emily, you misunderstand me. I'm very much aware of that. The city doesn't get into this act at all, except you can encourage, business owners have to make the call.
Yeah. Karen?
I mean, just on that note, I mean, it would, because I think all of us have received an inundation of emails. I know I did from this weekend that, why aren't you requiring masks? Like the supermarket hasn't, and it's, I mean, if maybe just again, emphasizing the fact that it cannot come from us, that it cannot come from the health department, that the governor, does trump the orders that we would enact locally, and State Bill 3004, I mean, definitely made that case that the health department can request it, but that ultimately the governor has the say, and our state has not made it a requirement. I mean, if we could just get that out there, because I mean, truly every single day I am getting a new email or a text or a call asking why we're not doing that.
Is it at a point where we want to take action and do something, and like maybe send out Tawny?
I asked Lisa last week if we could possibly do an educational piece along those lines and just indicate where the line of authority comes from, and that it has been taken out of our hands. And it is falling on individual business owners, and we don't have any control what individual business owners choose to the policies they choose to create, unless we're married to a business owner, and then we make him make people wear masks.
So like an ad in the paper, a post on Facebook, a video, what do you guys think?
Maybe, I don't know, definitely Facebook, absolutely Facebook, and then maybe on our website. And then, I mean, I hate spending money right now, and I don't know how many people are reading the newspaper, but it really does. I mean, it is like, that is the barrage of information that we're getting from constituents wanting to know why we're being negligent and not requiring it. So, I mean, just really getting that out, that it's not up to us.
Okay, yes. So Emily, one more thing. So you guys, Connie, Karen, thank you. That's one item, and that's fine, doing exactly what you two have suggested. I'm proposing a slightly different thing. Yes, the city can't require anything, but in our ads, we could encourage business owners to make the call if they choose to, for the greater health of the town. That's the second issue.
Well, I think that we've done that, and we've done that by providing the masks and the message. I feel like we've done that, but I like the idea of creating something on Facebook, whether it's a post or a video, that explains the tools that we have as we go through this pandemic as a city. And I will work with Lisa, if that's okay with you, Joel, to put something out there on social media.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, okay. Very helpful. I don't know where we are. Where are we? Mike, you just made your update, and we're on to Tawny. Thanks.
Okay. HASU canceled their May meeting because they didn't have enough agenda items. And so they're just working day to day as usual. And they kind of reached out and wondered when the city was going to open City Hall back up to allow the public in. And I didn't have a really good answer. I said I would get back to them. And they are kind of following our lead as to when they open their offices back up. Let's see, museum board meeting. Dennis Brown was elected to his third and final term as a museum trustee. And the museum has a finance committee that held a meeting and hashed over, like everyone else, the lack of funds and what needed to be cut and changed and moved around. The finance committee did suggest a $100,000 transfer from the museum's endowment fund, which was approved. And there was discussion held about incorporating ideas for increasing the museum's digital or virtual programs and presence. The staff reported on the exhibit refinements and the campaign to recapture past members that were members of the museum and contributing to their financial liability. The staff also submitted an application to the Utah State Historical Records Advisory Board. it would be used to digitize the Barnes collection, which is a voluminous, but it's, there's a lot of really important documents and just pieces of history there. And the Canyonlands Special Service District, I just went blank as to what the name of the whole thing was. Basically, the meeting that we had was just going over the COVID-19 precautions, what they have done to keep residents safe. There has not been a case in the care center, which is pretty amazing, or there hadn't been at that meeting. Things could have changed. We did ask the CIB to push a loan payment back, and the CIB pushed that back till 2022, which was a bit of a relief. And the board is working to partner with a nonprofit, and I will fully admit that a lot of this is over my head. It's out of my realm of expertise or understanding, but it enables the care center to, or the special service district to piggyback off of a nonprofit, and it's another revenue source. And I'm turning that over to Joette and Kirsten's capable hands, because I read the words, but I did not understand. And I think that's it.
Thanks, Tawny. Gosh, it's been so long. I don't know who's it next. Oh,
Where are we?
Karen.
Okay, so I'll try to be brief here. So at our Arches Hotspot Region Coordinating Committee, Wes gave a brief presentation of the goals of the Downtown Main Street Alliance. And those goals were reducing the speed limit downtown, retaining Main Street parking, developing side street parking, developing consistent downtown right-of-way aesthetics, development with the future transit system in mind, and increasing economic opportunity for expanding the pedestrian-friendly zone. He showed some examples of various downtown areas. Mike gave us a brief report on what the different projects could accomplish. And then the majority of our meeting was spent discussing the criteria for the funding, which is reducing congestion, and the sub-criteria for ranking proposed projects. So we're going to be meeting tomorrow at 2:00, and that's going to be on YouTube. I encourage anybody who has any interest in this topic to reach out to us. There's going to be a field trip on Friday at 8 a.m. Carly, before I say it out loud, but I'm going to still say it out loud. I was just curious if folks are invited to walk the downtown area with us on Friday. Is that an open meeting?
Yeah, so it's a public meeting and the public will be invited. We'll notice it probably by tomorrow. And we haven't chosen a starting location yet, but
we should just start in front of City Hall. I mean, just to make it easy.
It's up to the chairman. He's putting the agenda together.
How many people are on the hotspot committee?
7.
Yes.
So I would just caution you to say, like, if people want to participate, is it going to be recorded?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could get like enough people that you might have more than a group of 20.
Carly, the plan is to record the meeting as you're in transition and moving?
Yeah.
You're not, okay.
I would encourage people that want to participate to listen to
The recording.
unless they're just dying to walk 6 feet away from everybody. You know what I mean, Karen?
Yep.
I mean, it stinks because that's such a cool thing to do. But you could find yourself a little complicated there.
It's really complicated to do because we have to do it in person, obviously, because we're walking around, and we were having trouble. We would have to do 3 separate tours if we wanted to keep away from a quorum, which is staff intensive, and we just wanted to get this done. So
Right. Okay. Next, I listened in on the May 18th town hall with Juliet Teneret and Vicky Varela. Insurance or unemployment insurance numbers are the greatest data for the state to figure out what how COVID is impacting us. In the last few months, we have wiped out 3 years of job growth. Utah has had close to 150,000 claims. Now that things are slowly opening, it will be important to see how many continue to file claims compared to how many new jobs will open up again. And I've mentioned this every time, but accommodation and food services are the leading losses next to retail. And these tend to be lower paid jobs, which bring about added stress to these populations. The Kem Gardner Institute does feel positive about the rebounding of these economies, though. And Cameron Deal wanted to emphasize that these data points, especially for cities like ours, it's very important that we go to our federal delegates and tell the story of what is happening to our community, and with the discussion of the fourth stimulus package that has not passed yet. And the fact that it's, we're not just talking about relief, but we're talking about stimulus for our economies. So, and then Vicky Varela, the head of tourism for the state of Utah, talked that international travelers will not be coming here until mid-year of 2021. And so they are going to be looking at focusing on Utah for traveling in our neighboring states. And she talked about this campaign that is trying to build a tourist economy that is actually welcomed by the local community. And so there was, there's quite a few references to Moab. So hopefully we'll be working closely with them and trying to accomplish that. And then May 19th, there was a town hall with Lieutenant Governor Cox, and he discussed that they're finding that minorities are being hit harder with COVID, and that includes Pacific Islanders and Latinos. Age and underlying health concerns, especially diabetes, is what health providers are particularly concerned with. Kristen Cox, the executive director of the Governor's Office of Management and Budget, discussed quite a bit the unintended consequences of the closures. And this is before they were talking about most communities moving to yellow. And the fact that these closures outside of economics, there's consequences with mental health issues and domestic violence, elective surgeries, and long-term chronic health issues. So, opening up to elective surgeries was very important. They're finding that enrollment for higher education is down in the state. And there's concern on when we do reopen schools, how we're going to be able to help younger children with type 1 diabetes. And the state is having discussions on how they're going to be able to prep schools to be able to help the young students, especially when they have working parents, and where they'll be able to go. So they're really looking at the fall opening and what's going to be possible. So this data that the state is looking into to moving the needle and changing our community to the next color is closely studied with guidance from the local health departments and local healthcare facilities, and what they can handle and what they can do without being overwhelmed. So that seems like it was closely tied with us staying in orange. And I was just curious, Mayor, if you have an idea or if there's a discussion about what would happen about going to yellow for our community.
Well, oh yeah, I'm still open. Joel, maybe you can speak to the what's been going on with the task force. I hear that the county is talking with the health department, but I'm not sure if that's a conversation that the task force is having. Joel, can you talk about that?
I would just say at this point, there's open discussions on the city and the county not following the same pattern as the rest of the state with the state. And We don't know how those are going to shake out. It's our understanding that the governor's been asked to allow us to take a different course, and we're seeing how that shakes out. That's
So
how
I'm not aware of the health department's proposal. I haven't seen it. It hasn't been shown to me, so I can't answer that. And from what I hear, it's kind of a blend between orange and yellow.
Gotcha.
there's no guarantee that's happening. That's very preliminary. I don't know that that's.
What have you heard? Or
Just
have
that the
you heard?
request has been made. I've heard no input on whether or not. I mean, obviously, it's a no away from being done. So I don't know what's happening there. So
I think where we are is we'll see where the governor lands on the proposal from the health department, but I haven't seen it, and Joel hasn't been privy to it.
And then I was just curious if I can, I've also been outside of mask. ATVs have been a real hot discussion. I'm sure you guys have all heard it too. And I just want to let people know that we are reading their emails, and I mean, Emily, I know you were working on this pre-COVID. Is there any information you want to share about?
I'm going to make a really bad joke that I haven't been hearing much because I can't hear it over the noise of ATVs. Oh, what a punk. No, in all honesty, I had such an amazing meeting with UTV Utah, with the folks from Rally on the Rocks, with the Blue Ribbon Coalition, Cliff Kuntz, who runs Ride with Respect, and Kent Green. We all came together, Scott McFarland with High Point Hummer, we all came together and we recognized the issue of noise in our community, and that there was movement that we could make as a coalition to work with the industry to make quieter machines. And several of the groups that I just mentioned were interested in helping to put together funds to do the noise study, so that we can actually have a fact-based conversation about how the noise of a RZR, a Razor, individually at idle is very different than a group of them traveling together, and the way that our valley is sort of an acoustic sound garden, if you will. And so those groups are interested in working with us to have a sound study, and to use that study to leverage the industry to make a quieter machine. And I put it out to all of them. I want to see the Moab model, the quiet model that makes recreating, alongside other types of recreation, more compatible. And what would that Moab model look like? Sort of a charge to industry, and try to get it from the industry angle. And then coronavirus hit.
Right.
So I think it's really interesting that we all kind of that live here were able to see what it sounds like without the presence of motorized recreation. And we're starting to realize, the impact that recreation does have on our community, on our residential quality of life. And I'm very encouraged by the people that I spoke with, those groups that we have allies within the industry to work toward a solution to noise. And so it's hard because I'm not riding in a car with other people right now. So I think we have to wait until we're at a different risk level. Certainly out of orange, probably out of yellow, before we can really start to, host some machine meetings. The goal was to kind of go on rides together and have a conversation. But I can I can see if maybe I can pull together people for a Zoom conversation, and see what kind of traction I can get with contacting the industry. So, all right, well, that's my second to do of this meeting. I'll put that on my to-do list. But I just want to share with the council and anybody that's watching this meeting that I am encouraged that that we're understanding quality of life as residents, but that we're also seeing that there's a role that the private sector can play in working with us, and that these advocacy groups, while they're advocates for their type of recreation, they also want to feel welcome in our community and want to be part of the solution. I know that may feel, how can that be? But it's true. And I can say that for certainty that is true of that user group. So I'll put it on my to-do list, and I'll report back to the council in a couple of weeks.
Mayor, Ronnie had a question.
Sorry, I'm muting. Not to take up much time, but I am wondering, like you said, when we get a little bit out from under COVID, I was wondering, can we put it on a list to have a larger discussion about noise? Only because especially some of the comments we're getting, at least one of the ones this week, was just about noise in general, not specific to ATVs, UTVs. And I'm just wondering if it's time to revisit our noise ordinance and have a discussion about valuing quiet as one of our community values, and deciding that that's something that does take precedence for us, and that we are going to put some effort into enforcement. I mean, obviously we have to get to a slightly different place, but I do think there are some larger noise questions that have been going on for some time. So I'm just hoping we can get there and maybe relook at what we have. I know Mike asked Lori to take a look, just having to do with some specific UTV questions, but maybe when you're looking at that, Lori, you can just think about too, like if it looks out of date or, I don't know, lacking.
Yeah, so Emily, if I may, so you're probably aware that I did ask Lori to look into very narrow range. Can the city legally enforce a noise-based ordinance with a calibrated acoustic loudness meter in hand at a certain distance? It's very simple and straightforward in my opinion, and to see if we can even do it. The wisdom of doing so is another subject. But I would like to get an answer to that question.
Okay, Joel?
We've spent a lot of time in the noise ordinance. We definitely need to relook at it. We definitely need to redraft it. We definitely need to go forward. There's nothing straightforward and simple about using a handheld device to track the noise and determine. The problem you always have is there's ambient noise coming from all other things. So if someone's going down the road and you're standing there holding a device and there's 5 things going on, what's causing it to get to that level is now a dispute in enforcement as to what's causing the noise. And if you have an ATV going by, but at the same time you have a roads crew half a block away jackhammering, and you never get that optimal situation where you just have the one thing making noise and you can say you're causing the noise. We are going to go that route, Mike, and that's the easiest way to try and enforce this. But I don't want this idea to be that it's very simple, and once we get there, we just hold this thing up and we can just start. It's not that simplistic. But we do need to redo it. We do need to go that route. Currently, it says that noise cannot travel off of your property. That's not even realistic to enforce. I mean, you opening and closing your car door travels off of your property. So we definitely need to review it. We definitely need to go back through it. What's on the books now is not usable, but we have to find a way to enforce it. And it's going to be tough to do, but we can absolutely do it. And if it's a priority of this council, we'll absolutely make it happen. And we'll determine, I like Ronnie's idea of prioritizing quiet, as just like we have dark skies, and we pass some ordinances that say between these hours, this is not allowed. And that's a lot easier to enforce because at 11 p.m. or 10 p.m., there is probably only one thing going up and down the road. It's a lot less, there's a lot less interference when you're trying to monitor that type of noise at that time.
We
I
can
mean,
deal,
we-
yeah, we can deal with all those situations, Joel. I'm not saying I probably overspoke when I said it's simple. No, there are considerations. It does take some practice. There are conditions. Obviously, if there's a jackhammer going on, well, it's the same thing as when you're trying to measure speed limits of cars. You know, if there's two cars coming by at the same time, you can't use your radar accurately. All that can be dealt with, I claim. All right.
I will say that when I was meeting with the group, curfew came into the conversation. The concern about curfew was that people like to do night rides. And so I said, better would be to have, potentially have curfews with permitted night rides. So we could all just celebrate the night rides as opposed to have it being like just a open up thing. But there was pushback about a curfew from
There's a difference between a curfew and a quiet time. A curfew would be you're not allowed to use them between these hours. A quiet time would be more like if at 20 miles an hour or less, they're running this many decibels, we've set a limit at this many decibels. So as they're going through town at 11 p.m., they're not going over 20 miles an hour. So it's a quiet hum instead of the acceleration that we're also used to that's, so loud and obnoxious.
Have we hijacked a council report here?
Every one of them up to this point, yes, Mayor.
We are hijacking council reports, but it's okay because our agenda is light, but we should continue to move forward. Are we still on Karen? You're done? Okay. And so now are we at Kaylin?
I think so.
Okay. Take it away.
So Moab Dark Skies met, speaking of which, there are now dedicated pages on the city and county planning department zones of our websites for dark skies. And both of them also link to the application for households that would like financial assistance to swap out their existing fixtures to ones compliant with the new code. I attended the Solid Waste Special Service District meeting. The recycling center is reopening to its full hours, which under our current staffing is feasible and not an imposition and should improve safety by not having the crowds that we've had with the limited hours. And we are moving forward with plans to bring in a large contract drum grinder to process the thousands of yards of organics that we have accumulated up at the Moab landfill. So opening up a new productive stream of material reuse via mulch, and it could also possibly be feedstock for composting, but we're not there yet. And I also attended the Arches Hotspot Regional Coordinating Committee, and that's been covered pretty well. Downtown parking is still very much in the mix on street and in parking lots, but better utilization thereof, as well as the further out parking and the Spanish Valley multimodal path. I met with Chuck and Susie from Zions to go over the water rates modeling that had been done, and that may or may not result in another option for you all next week, but it was interesting. And because part of the intention there is to encourage conservation, I went and was reviewing some old information that I have and noticed that, and I double checked this, that there are two incentive programs that Moab residents can participate in. One is for toilet replacement, up to $100 per toilet. If your house if your existing ones were installed before '94 and use more than 1.6 gallons per flush, and an incentive payment for installation of smart water timers, which can save 30% per year. So those can have a very short payback, especially with this incentive. So you can go to utahwatersavers.com or org. .com and sign up and get more information. And I sat in on the last county council public hearings, which was interesting because they have a couple of significant lodging developments, I use that term broadly, campgrounds, but many sites in the North 191 zone. So that's a thorny issue that our compatriots down the street, so to speak, are grappling with right now. And I've also had conversations with some folks about the how the arches in particular can reopen safely, and regarding that meeting on Friday. And so just want to reiterate that this is not like a rehash of the timed entry that was shot down a year ago. This is a temporary approach solely geared about reopening the parks to allow for the safety of park staff and visitors, and allow for the maximum number of visitors into the park during the day while still maintaining safe social distancing. Without it, currently the plan is, as it used to be, to close the gate when the park reaches capacity. And if that capacity is lower, that might happen more often, which isn't good for business. And will also provide confidence to the visitor that they can access the national parks and that they can do so safely. And it's really part of our bigger message that Moab can be a safe place to visit at this time, which is really critical for us to get out there. That's what I've got. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Kaylin, and thank you for that for your recap of the plan, the NPS plan. Okay, so that takes us to the conclusion of reports, and let's see, Joel, I think you're up. We're now at agenda item number 5, administrative reports.
Yeah, so a couple of quick things. Tawny, we're working to get City Hall back opened. Our goal is to have it open. Our goal is to the first week of June. We have the Treasurer's Department through a FEMA reimbursement for the protection of our employees. We're redoing how the Treasurer's Department will interact with the public and putting a sneeze barrier and everything else. And so we're in the process of doing that. There's tarps all strung up in the hall here, and we're working diligently to try and get that done so we can get open back up to the public. But at this point, that's kind of what we're waiting on, is to get that area prepped up for the safety of our employees that'll be exposed. And once that's ready to go, then we plan on opening the front doors again, barring the second peak. Not a second wave, a second peak. This is still the first wave. So for us, it'd be our first peak. So that's
so Joel, I don't want to interrupt you, but let's talk about that date for a second, an estimated date for reopening City Hall. And then also I just wanted to say to the council, be thinking, even if we do reopen City Hall, if anyone is feeling like they are in a position where they would like to continue, especially, based on our risk level, or if anyone has some underlying conditions that, you don't have to state it here, but maybe offline, if we want to continue to have our council meetings online for the safety of any of our council members. I just want to put that out there. But Joel,
to that point that the mayor just made, to be clear, even under the reopening phases of the state, 2.0, 3.0, all of it, we open the front door and we unlock it. Under those guidelines, we're still recommend to our employees, those who can work from home, or to work from home. So I don't want to give this misinformation that we're going to flow open the front door and everyone's coming back. If I have employees who are still in high risk categories, they're still going to be working from home. And if we have people who still qualify under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, under either one of those 6 first categories that the federal government passed, and they qualify to work from home under those guidelines, they'll still be working from home even though the doors are unlocked and we're open to the public. So I just want to be clear to that until we get clearance from those other government agencies that were to bring everyone back. We're going to follow their guidelines, and their guidelines say to keep people working from home. So just be clear on that. The mask thing, we don't have the authority at this point because of everything you guys said. And I don't want to reiterate that and spend another hour on that. But what I do want to reiterate is it's up to the business owner or it's up to the governor. I can tell you from what we're doing, the state is not going to require masks. So it's up to the business owner. That's the reality. If the business owner wants to require masks, it's no different than requiring no shirt, no shoes, no service. They have the right to do that. It's non-discriminatory. They can absolutely make that policy. If people come on their property and they require them to wear masks and those people refuse to put on a mask, they have a right to ask them to leave. If those people refuse to leave, they're now trespassing. They have the right to call police and call dispatch and have police sent there and have people either probably not cited for trespassing because of the way trespassing statutes work, but they would definitely have them asked to leave from their property. And we will enforce that if it gets to that point. So we don't have the authority to make a rule. We don't have the authority to enforce that rule, but we do have the right to enforce the right of the property owner to enforce those rules on their property. And if they make that mask rule, they enforce that mask rule, they ask someone to leave and they refuse, they're not trespassing. And they have the right to have that person removed from their property. Okay. Lastly, as you guys are aware and the public is aware, over the last week, we have been doing reductions here at the city. We have, over the last 4 days, including the holiday, we continue to work. And at this point, we've come to a conclusion on what we think are our reductions for now. We think this is going to work for us. None of us have a crystal ball. None of us know if there's a second wave of this in October. None of us know where we're going. But that said, over the last week, we have reduced our staff even more. We've reduced by 9 full-time employees. We furloughed 2 more employees. We furloughed, and then we riffed 2 positions and created part-time positions for 2 other employees. And we also have riffed and furloughed, or riffed a full-time position and offered a part-time position out of an additional position. So at this point, overall, the city has riffed a total of 10 employees, full-time employees, 8 full-time employees have been furloughed, and 60 part-time employees have been reduced out of our work staff. It's getting close to we're reaching well into the 90s of people this is affecting. There's been a lot of comments prior to this last week locally. These are full-time employees and workers of the city that we highly value, that we're learning how to function with a very minimal work staff. It's not something we chose to do, it's something we were forced to do. This is an option of last resort. We had financial problems prior to COVID that we've been working on for the last 6 months that we felt like we'd worked through, that felt like we were on the backside of, and then COVID set in. So this isn't something we wanted to do, nor is it something we chose to do. It was something we have a last resort to do. There's been a lot of comments publicly about the city needs to lay people off. The city needs to, and these are families and local people who work and live here. And they're members of our community, and we've been laying people off as of 2 months ago. So we've been doing that since go. It's uninformed opinions, and it's just out of line, in my opinion. If they want to set up an appointment and call and find out, what we're doing, I'm happy to have those conversations with anyone who thinks that we haven't been taking those actions since this began back in March. So we have been taking those steps. We're at this point have a reduction in our staff of full-time employees of well over 20% of our staff. And that didn't all happen in the last week. That's been ongoing for the last 2 months. So the city is taking the steps it needs to sustain its viability, to make sure we're financially viable going forward. We take it serious. We don't take it lightly. These members of our staff who have been let go or furloughed are friends of mine, and it's been a rough week. It's not been a fun week last month or so at the city. And so I hope that times rebound. I hope that there's better times ahead. I hope that there are some options for us going forward and we're able to bring them back. And that would be my hope. And that's the goal that we're shooting for, is to be back and operational, have our revenue streams back in place, diversify our revenue streams as we go forward under our administration, and also to recover this. And as we start providing the services on a broader term again, that we're allowed to offer these positions back to the employees that have lost them. They will be offered those positions first before those jobs are ever posted. Once those positions are recreated and they're brought back, those employees who have lost those positions will be offered those positions first and foremost. So yeah, it's not been fun. A lot goes into determining how we make those decisions. We do them as fair and practical as possible, and we try and spread them across all of City Hall. They're not all out of one department. We try and make sure that all departments equally share the brunt of what we're doing, and we try and make it so the functionality of what we're doing can be kept, and that our goal is that the citizens of this community, for the most part, will not feel the change. That's not realistic to some degree. The pool's closed. We're not able to reopen the pool right now. So there are members of our community that feel that change. There's no getting around that. But that's the goal. The goal is to do this in a way that we can provide those services. So at the end of the day, the majority of our citizens don't feel the flex that we're having to put into what we're doing. So we have restructured City Hall in a lot of ways. We've combined some departments to try and make this work a little better. We have restructured management in a lot of departments. And it's, for the most part, there's not a single department in this city, in the city structure, that hasn't had layoffs, that hasn't felt this situation. Some departments didn't have any layoffs this time because they had half their departments laid off 2 months ago when this started. And some had layoffs this time that didn't have any layoffs the previous situation when we started this process. So, but I am more than happy to discuss with anyone who wants to discuss what we're doing. I'm more than happy to sit down with them. And obviously I'm not allowed to talk personnel matters. I'm not allowed to talk personal issues. I value everyone who works here and has worked here, their privacy highly, and I wouldn't discuss them. But if you want to discuss the general situation of the city, what we're doing, what we're thinking, I'm happy to have that conversation with anyone. So, are there questions for kind of what we're doing? Ronnie.
This is kind of related and kind of tangential, but because, you know, this is all happening thanks to our lovely COVID situation and budget, I was just going to ask for a reminder on when we're having our next agenda item related to the budget or next budget update.
We are required by state law to adopt a budget by June 22 of every year. And so it will be on your next agenda. It was on this agenda originally. And then with everything that's went on over the last 2 weeks, we just, as a staff, were to a point we felt like we needed to move it.
And just one other quick thing, I feel really awkward to be the one bringing this up, but I feel like it needs to be said because we had a citizens to be heard comment about it last time, and you know, the county's discussed it. So I do think there'll be a time and a place where at least we as a body should discuss if executive compensation should be reduced given everything else. So I'll just leave it till we discuss the budget next time, but I thought one of us should say something.
Thanks, Ronnie. And Joel, anything else from you?
No, unless there's, but I'm happy to answer questions. I'll answer any questions you guys have. I mean,
It looks like no questions, so we can go ahead and move on. Thank you, Joel, for the sobering state of the city. So moving on, we're at section 6, citizens to be heard. Reminder to the public that having comments considered, that because we're in an electronic meeting, that we ask that they fill out forms. As of 7 p.m. tonight, we had one form submitted to us, and this council has all been privy to that submission, and that it will be part of it will be published on our website as a comment. Now moving on to 7, presentation, 7.1, presentation and discussion regarding an update on the Bike Skills Park on the Mill Creek Parkway near 100 East. And I understand that we have Maddie Logowitz and Chuck Williams to join us. Yep, joining us right now. So I will turn the time over to Chuck and Maddie to give us this presentation.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
We can, loud and clear.
Okay.
Hear me okay?
Yes, Chuck, I can hear you too. Thanks for checking in.
Yeah, I was watching on YouTube and there's a little lag there on the timing. Yeah, so I just wanted to give a quick intro to this item. We've been working on this project for at least the last year and a half, and it's been moving along quite well, I believe, working with Trail Mix. And the location I wanted to just point out is, if I can share a screen. Can you see that now? Oh, yeah, so this
You can see that.
This is the location. This is where South 100 East dead ends over here by the, this is the Rustic Inn, and this is the electric company, fiber company. And then this is the 200 South alignment, and this is Mill Creek that moves through here. And I apologize, this red circle is a little bit light, but this is the general area of the location of the Bike Skills Park. And I would just say that this area was chosen because we were looking for city-owned property near the bike trails that would be conducive to the location of a project such as this. And working with the county, with Trail Mix, with Maddie, they've come up with a design. We have since had it analyzed because it is in the floodplain and the floodway. And it's such a low impact that there's no rise no floodway rise due to the design and ultimate construction here, which is a really good thing. We've done the due diligence, and we wanted to take the opportunity now to make sure that council was informed, because as Maddie will tell you here in just a second, construction is in the relatively near future. It's been delayed because of CV-19. So we just wanted to really inform council. I've been working with Lisa. There'll be a public information program utilizing social media, et cetera, all the tools, the website, to keep the public informed as construction gets closer and what the steps would be in the schedule, things such as that. So unless there's questions for me, I'd be happy to turn it over to Maddie. I know she has a presentation. And I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen here. Okay, is everyone seeing that?
Yes, I can see that on your end.
Okay, great. So this presentation is going to take about 10 minutes. And since it's been a long time since I'm sure you guys thought about this Bike Skills Park, I'm going to give a little bit of background on and the funding, and then show you the updated finalized design that we've put together. So for background, we started working on this project last year in January and February with primarily Chuck, and we put together an application for the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant, and we were awarded the full amount that we requested for the project. So funding's coming from the interlocal agreement from GCAT, which is Grand County Active Transportation and Trails, aka Trail Mix. And then an extra $30,000 for the restroom that's part of the project. And then the other 50% of the project is coming from the grant. So the purpose and need for this bike park is to help connect the local community to the outdoor recreation that's available in the surrounding public lands. And we took inspiration from the Boulder Park at Lions Park. There's a picture there just in case you guys aren't familiar with that area. But because Moab is a world famous mountain bike destination and there's 200 miles of single track in the area, we really wanted something similar to that Boulder Park, but for mountain biking. So the goals of this park are both to be a sort of a standalone attraction where kids and families can go that's in town and accessible. And then also as a gateway so that families can get exposed to technical biking and maybe get interested in the other mountain biking opportunities that are in the area. So just to go a little bit deeper into those barriers that some families face if they want to go mountain biking. Most of our beginner areas are unfortunately far enough from town that they require a vehicle. So if a youth, let's say ages 8 to 18, which is our primary audience we want to serve, wants to go there, they need a vehicle. They need someone who's able to drive them, who has the time, which can be challenging for families where folks work more than one job. They need to go in an area where they can be supervised properly, which can be difficult, especially if it's like a grandparent and grandchildren out on the trails. They need a bike that can handle the trails, and mountain bikes can be several $1,000s, which is prohibitive to some families. And they also just need to know about what opportunities are out there. And so if folks don't, if they don't know anyone who mountain bikes, for example, they might not know that there's 200 miles of trail and they might not know how to get their foot in the door. So as Chuck mentioned, the location of this park is central, and I have a slide here. The yellow blocks are schools. So this site is actually pretty accessible along bike lanes and the Mill Creek Parkway from all the different schools. And see how this site will tie into the other park networks. So you can get between the parks using the protected bike lanes. The site's also going to be ADA accessible. So grandparents and kids will have a place to go. And you can use any type of bicycle on the features. You don't need a specialized mountain bike to use it. Signage there will be multilingual and have information about the best beginner areas and the trails. A link from the urban infrastructure out to what's out on our public lands. For many youth programs, we got letters of support from Beacon, the Grand County School District, the Multicultural Center, and the Red Devils benefit from this project. One other need that this park will help with is this map has orange dots, which show restrooms on Mill Creek Parkway. And on the left, you can see that's the anonymous park, the bike jump park. There's a restroom there. And then on the right side, over here is Rotary Park with a restroom. And then currently there's a long stretch without any public restrooms. And so this park will be right in the middle and provide another restroom. So it'll also serve anyone who's using the Mill Creek Parkway. Okay, so getting into the finalized design, as Chuck pointed out, this is the location for the park. So it's right where some of these streets dead end to the Mill Creek Parkway. And originally in our grant application packet, we had this site in blue here. And then after starting to really get into more of the logistics with the site prep, we shifted it just slightly to this open area that was a reduced cost for grading and site preparation. This X here marks where these photos are taken from. So this is to help orient you further because probably a lot of you know this spot. And so this photo here looking east, this is the one that's looking out across the main site of the park. And then these other photos show you sort of how it connects to that network of Mill Creek Parkway, because there's several different branches that connect in that spot. It's sort of a junction. You'll also notice this bottom photo looking south includes the bridge. So this bridge is heading over to 300 South, kind of towards City Market. And this panographic photo is taken from that bridge. So this is just to help sort of orient you to where this site is. And this orange area is the site for the park. It'll actually extend around this tree. And I have this arrow here because this tree is this giant cottonwood, and it's a good reference for when I show you the next document. So this is our engineered grading plan. And so this document isn't super friendly, but here it is marked up. And so this right here is that large tree that's over on the side as well. And then one major feature of the design, there'll be this dirt mound here, which is just raised slightly 1 or 2 feet. But what this does is it'll delineate a beginner area for this pocket park and an intermediate area. And so in the beginner area, the features in this park will be wider, more beginner level. And then on the intermediate area, they'll be skinnier and a little more challenging, require more balancing. But it's a versatile design because, you know, if there's many people of different ages in the park, they can divide out into these sections. Or if there's just one person, they can link all of this together into one big loop. And it's separated from the pathway by a fence, an opening over here, if you guys can see that, and over here. So you can actually duck off the path, do a little circuit in here, and then get back on the pathway. But people aren't going to be whizzing in and out, interfering with pedestrian and commuter traffic. So this concept, this is what we originally submitted for the grant application. And so we have changed it slightly as the design has developed. So this orange circle, oops, right here, is now the new location for the restroom. So it's shifted slightly closer to the road here, which is 100 East. And then this park has, you know, sort of rotated 90 degrees. But it gives you a good idea of the overall concept. And it also shows how this area, here I'll show you. So this is actually what that looks like now, that end of 100 East. And where we got this cul-de-sac sort of trailhead, the city's eventual plans to do city streetscapes improvement here and turn that into a little cul-de-sac. And so this sort of serves a double function. It'll, you know, provide a nice entrance to this pocket park. And then this would also be an excellent location to put signage about a map for Mill Creek Parkway or bike routes through town. It would serve as basically a trailhead to the Mill Creek Parkway because right now it doesn't have a formalized entrance. So I got an email from Ronnie today. There were some concerned citizens who, my impression was that they were worried about a jump park going in on the Mill Creek Parkway. So I wanted to go give a little bit of an explanation about what type of park this is. So the jump park, if you guys are familiar with that anonymous park, it's a pretty high-speed area and a pretty advanced area with lots of, I would say, like older teens going over jumps on BMX bikes. And so this park is different. For one, it's a lot smaller scale. It's also not a jump park. It's more about developing skills like balance and biking techniques like wheel lifts. And so it's really more low speed. These are examples of the wooden features that we're getting through PBR, which is Progressive Bike Ramps Company. And this company specializes in designing these specific features just for biking skills parks. And so looking at these, you can see that these are more about like precision than speed. We also got feedback from the public that they really wanted us to integrate some of the features that people might encounter out on our trails. And so these two photos on the left here, these are examples of features that other communities have used in their bike skill parks. So they've integrated stone and even mixed them with the wood features here. And then this is an example on the right of what GCAT staff have built in the past on the trails. So this is a ramp on Rodeo Trail. And so GCAT staff will actually be constructing the stone features for the park. And when it's complete, it'll be a mix of these, the progressive bike ramp wooden features and some rock features to help kind of help people build skills for going out on the trails. So what we've done so far, we've gone through many revisions of the design. So we've worked with Progressive Bike Ramps. All they do is design skill parks, so they give us a lot of feedback. We worked with Chuck. We worked with Ben Miner, who helped us with the floodplain analysis. And then we also had a community outreach event last summer where we got a lot of input from the community. And so what we heard back from them was that they wanted those kind of separate areas for beginner and intermediate so that younger kids could have a more sort of private area, if you will. And then also about having more rock features integrated. We also have the no-rise certificate, which will allow us to build in this particular location. And we have ordered the bike skills features and we have an installation date scheduled. So the next steps, we still don't have a finalized name. Emily recommended or proposed Groff Park after Robin Groff, who is this local legend. Him and his brother made the first bike shop in Moab. And so I wanted to maybe get feedback from the council on that. Site preparation and installation will take place this summer, and then the project will be completed by October. Okay.
So Maddie, I got a question for you, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, I got some feedback from Sarah, as you know, and I went down there and took my own set of photographs. Look exactly like what you've shown here. Thank you. And I've always been struck, you know, by what a beautiful riparian area it is down there. And that's what some of the residents are concerned about losing as well. And I see how you're saving that giant cottonwood tree. That's great. And a couple of other bigger ones a little farther to the east. That's great as well. But what I see when I stand near the bridge out there is you're right up against the property line. And I'm not sure if those trees are on our side of the property line or on the other side of the property line. But how many of those would you save? I mean, I really like that line of, you know, not as giant of trees, but that riparian look that it gives to the area. Would those trees go or what?
So this photo I think shows them. So it's these smaller trees here and then these two larger ones.
Yeah.
So none of those moved. So what it will come down is what the equipment operators need to grade the area. This area does need to be graded because it's in the flood. We are motivated, especially to keep these two larger trees because we want to put under the shade. Because this area right in front will be the beginner area. And so it would be ideal if we could have, you know, it's going to be toddlers on Strider bikes potentially, and then you could have parents or grandparents sitting on benches under these trees.
Okay, well, thank you, that.
Sure.
That helps. One other, can you guys hear me? I'm getting a lot of echo now. Wow. So Maddie, one other final question. I mean, I go out to Brand often enough to know that there's a world of families out there with their kids, teaching their kids skills on 4-track trails out there, and sometimes the 2-track trails, or rather double and single, and that's great. Do you anticipate here then that you're going to often see elementary, junior high, and high school age kids using this area without their parents then, or do you expect their parents to show up?
Well, I know that at the other parks, they have about who needs supervision. And so we would just apply the same regulation to this park. So no people under X age allowed without supervision.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Maddie, I just wanted to say thank you for putting this comprehensive proposal together so that we could all see it. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me, Ronnie?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
I just wanted to say thank you for putting together the comprehensive plan so that we could all see it. And so one thing that I've just felt and others have felt is that it's really valuable for us as council members and just the community to have a visual of what is going to be happening. When we start seeing construction projects, that's when we as a council get feedback. I was wondering if it was possible, if we had the materials and time, to be able to put a coming soon sign with a couple of pictures of what to expect.
Yeah.
And then that could stay during the duration of the construction project so that as somebody's walking by and they see the construction, then even before they see the sign. And so we're not as staff or council flooded with what's happening questions, but instead that'll be a reference for them. Maybe that's already part of the plan.
It's not currently part of the plan, but I think that's a great idea, and it would be really simple for us to do.
Chuck, do you have ideas about that?
I think we'd be preparing some exhibits for Lisa to put on the website, as well as to share on social media, and we could use some of those same exhibits to post out there on the site itself. And working with Maddie, we can come up with what the best explanation are, or the best exhibits would be. Yeah, I think it's definitely doable. We can make that
Like
happen.
something as easy as laminated 8.5 by 11 with like, this is what's happening, and here's a picture, and it's like stapled to a piece of plywood or something.
Yeah, we can do a little better than 8.5 by 11, but we'll concept's good there. Yeah, we'll do it.
Cool. Okay, Ronnie.
I just had a few questions, Maddie. I was just hoping you could reiterate, because I asked you about some of these, but I thought maybe it's helpful for people watching, because some of the questions we got from the public were about things like parking. And I imagine some of these kids will ride their bikes over, but I imagine if it's a place of interest that some people will come in and park on 100 East or come in on 200 East, kind of those access points, or maybe even on 300 South to access it and want to park. Are you guys anticipating that?
Honestly, so I mean, we expect it to get use. So far as it becoming like a major tourism destination, my sense is that because this is a beginner area, folks who are coming to Moab specifically to mountain bike are probably not going to be very attracted to this location. It's probably going to attract more local use and family use. And so hopefully people will take advantage of the fact that they can bike to the site. And if they are parking, that street, from what I've observed, doesn't seem to be full of parking. And so, I would imagine it can accommodate the number of cars that we can expect.
And then thanks for the slide explaining cost. I had a question about maintenance, both of the park and the bathroom. I take it the city is kind of built the maintenance of the bathroom, the cost of that in. Does what funds kind of will keep up with maintenance of the park? I don't know how much will be required, but.
And Chuck, feel free to jump in, but our estimate that was approved by the previous city manager was $10,000 annually. And so that was submitted in the grant and approved, is my understanding.
Yeah, and I helped develop that cost. And it was a maximum number that we put in there. Once it's established, it's actually a pretty low maintenance feature, the park itself, I believe. And maintenance of the restroom certainly is less than $10,000 a year. It's basically the same prefabricated restroom that we have at BMX Park. Now, if anyone's been out to look at that one, it's a twin sister, if you will, of that restroom, and it'd be budgeted in the park's budget. To answer your question, Ronnie.
And then I'm trying to think of who here has been here the longest, but I think we got, a fair question from Solutions about kind of history and Friends of the Parkway, and the Parkway obviously goes back a long time, and there have been a lot of partnerships, and I didn't know if they had been involved in the process for this, or if they could contact you guys, because I think they have a lot of concerns, and I just didn't know, since many of us are newer, if there are any elements of the history of how the Parkway was set up, or what agreements or communication have been founded over time, just so that we honor that, because I think it's kind of one of the problems that a lot of us are newer, but we should appreciate that there might be longer history there. I know we have the bench for Crispin Bailey. I think it's farther away from the area that's going to be impacted, but that is nearby, and there's obviously history with that. So I didn't know if Sarah could reach out directly to you guys, but I also didn't know if Solutions and Friends of the Parkway had been involved in this process. I somehow don't remember discussing it in 2019, but I may have missed a meeting or something.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to collaboration and talking with Friends of the Parkway. We didn't communicate with them previously because we didn't see it as a very like controversial addition. In my view, it really does serve the current user groups and is like a pocket park that enhances use of the parkway. But I'm definitely open to talking with Sarah and finding out her concerns.
I think it would be helpful too, Ronnie, I don't mean to interrupt you, but maybe if there was an actual like written agreement, that would be helpful too. I've heard that there was you know, a collaboration, but I haven't seen any written documentation of the partnership. So that would be super helpful for Maggie and for Chuck to have if there is a formal partnership.
Yeah, we can ask folks who date back farther than me for that sort of thing. So I'll ask a few folks. Okay, and so I think the fencing sounds like it'll help with the fear that some people have about people zipping it on and off the trail, because I could see how that could be concerning both for people walking dogs or even riding bikes, seniors. So it's great that it's ADA accessible. I guess one of the other just concerns that was on the list, last one, I think, was just about, you know, there's some people referencing how the parkway has a sense of identity with kind of quiet peacefulness. And so I guess one of their concerns was this would be really loud and rowdy, and it is near the intersection, but I just didn't know if you guys had any comments about noise.
Well, I would say, you know, it's family focused and for children. So potentially there'll be noise from children, but I don't foresee any more noise than just regular use of the Mill Creek Parkway, which already has, you know, use by families, by kids, runners, dog walkers, friends. I mean, it's already being used for a lot of the same people who would take advantage of a beginner's bike skill area.
Okay, thanks for that. And then just my last one was about just being a neighbor to that area and having walked through. And I bet you guys looked into this because you're talking about flooding and grading, but it's always been a little bit confusing to me that I sometimes walk through that stretch and it's flooded. And I never knew if it was irrigation water, you know, that was watering for the city or if it was one of the neighboring properties. But it will sometimes sit in a few inches of water, and I bet grading will affect that. But I just wanted to make sure if someone does have irrigation water that comes that way, that we knew about it and we're working with them, or at least maybe that someone was checking in. I don't know if it's the Tangrins who are just across from there, so they got a heads up on this happening.
I can answer that one, Maddie. Yeah, what you've seen in the past was irrigation water that comes underneath the sidewalk that moves to the east. And the site, as we've designed it, incorporates drainage swale. You might have seen that on that the design plan that I sent to council.
Okay, it was probably in there, but I think I missed it. Yeah.
I know it's engineering drawing. They're not very pretty sometimes. But anyway, yes, indeed, we did account for if there's that irrigation plus any surface flow that might come off of 200 East. It comes down. There's a drain inlet that then will go into it. We have an existing storm drain there. We've cleared that with the state that this is an allowable use. So yes, indeed, we've not only addressed the FEMA floodplain issues, but also the drainage issues from localized water in this site design.
Okay. I guess maybe the final thing, just as personal courtesy, is if someone from the city could reach out to the Tankrin since they live there and just let them know that that would be happening.
Yeah, Ronnie, that irrigation water, Chuck, correct me if you've got a better take on it. I'm on the board of Moab Irrigation Company, and I know that there's a few surface diversions, if you will, and one there on 2nd East where you are, Ronnie, that are occasionally used once every 5 days. And it depends on how much water a user's sucking out of them. Sometimes they take more than they need. So that's something possibly the Moab Irrigation Company could work with their with their clients on to reduce?
Yeah, and we went out, we were in the field one day, and one of Maddie's colleagues went over and talked to the folks there about how much they're using that these days. And at least currently, they don't seem to be using it a lot. So I think it's all manageable. We sized our drainage swale well above what could come underneath those pipes that are underneath the sidewalk.
Yeah, one more question, if I may, Chuck, and this is really and Karen, this is a hotspot question. I know off Main Street parking, I believe this little section of First East is on the city right away and had been a candidate for some off Main Street parking. I'm not sure if that's still on our agenda or not, and if so, would the use of this area for a bike park get in the way of that?
What I would say is we have 100% design plans, remember, for the 100 South green, you know, we started calling it the green infrastructure project, but it originally started out as a storm drainage project, and then we included other utilities, and we used those as the plans as a basis for designing the Bike Skills Park. So the parking that was designed into that 100 South green infrastructure project, and there's quite a bit on 100 East where you're talking about, Mike, would still be there. This would not conflict with any of those improvements that could come later on 100 East when funding is available. Okay,
thank you.
An update about that particular strip of street. The half of the street is actually owned by JJ Wong and his family. And I actually did meet with them to discuss possible collaboration for additional developed dispersed parking. They're not interested in having a discussion about dispersed parking on that road. There's a history of how the parkway was built and how the property was swapped, resulting in them getting half of the road, essentially, and they're not interested at this time in talking about dispersed parking, for what it's worth.
If I may, Mayor, it's not really quite a half, it's more like a quarter of the road. And during development of those 100 South green infrastructure plans, we spent a lot of time coordinating with Mr. Wong about the parking layout. And at that time, he was good with our plans. He may have changed his mind, but at that point, there was parking along there. He was concerned about development of that vacant parcel that he's got closer to the Mill Creek Parkway, I believe. So the plans that we have that council has seen before, at that, when we developed them, he was good with those, but maybe he's changed his mind. I don't know.
Karen, did you have something you were going to ask or share? No? Okay. Are there any other comments or questions for Maddie or Chuck? I'm super grateful, Maddie. That was an amazing presentation, very thorough, and I'm very grateful.
Oh, good.
Kaylin, it looks like you want to share something?
Yes, I just wanted to thank Maddie and the rest of the team for all their work on this. I'm excited about this new addition and my support for the name you proposed. I think that's
okay.
Suitable honoring.
What do others think about the name? Just go ahead and speak. Karen?
Oh, I think that's a Groff Park sounds great. Yeah, I like that.
I like it too. Yeah, can we just check with the family? Most people are happy to get that, but every once in a while you get someone who, doesn't want it. So as long as we check with the family, sounds good.
Maddie, do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that?
Whichever you prefer. I mean, if you know his brother personally or the family personally, yeah, feel free.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, Maddie, Robin's wife will be thrilled. She very much misses him. This would be a great thing for her. Okay.
Great.
Okay, if there are no other comments or questions, thank you, Maddie, and thank you, Chuck. And we're going to move on in our agenda
Okay.
to
Thank you, guys.
thank you. To new
Maddie.
business, section
Thanks, Chuck.
8. 8.1, proposed resolution 31-2020, a resolution confirming the appointment of Marcy Mason as the city treasurer. Joel, I know that you wanted to say a few words before I ask for a motion. Joel, take it away.
So State Code 10-3-916 requires that a city of the 5th class, which we are, has a appointed treasurer. That appointment comes from the mayor, and the mayor, this is the mayor's appointment for this position. Marcy has been with the city now for a year and 5 months, and she's been in the treasurer's department for a year. In that time, she's worked under Rachel Stenta, who was our prior treasurer to Marcy, and has done an amazing job. She's a great employee and does what's asked of her, and always does a great job, great work quality, and provides great work product. She never complains and always does whatever we ask of her, and never tells us that's outside my job description. She just gets it done and does an amazing job. Since she's been here in that department for the last year, since February, she has been doing the job anyways, and she has been doing an amazing job at that. It has been during COVID, and she's not only been doing it, but she's been doing it with a reduced staff throughout that process. So taking on more so than maybe the normal treasurer position would have been required to. She is an amazing member of our staff, and we're happy to have her, and we're lucky to have her. And we want to support her, and we would support the mayor as myself as the city manager, and as a staff from me down. I know really enjoy having Marcy here and the job she does. So we would support the mayor's appointment of Marcy, and we would hope that you would give her a favorable recommendation.
Can I make a motion?
You bet.
I move to approve resolution 31-2020, confirming the appointment of Marcy Mason as Moab City Treasurer.
Thank you, Tawny. Is there a second? Karen?
I'll second.
Thank you so much. I just want to say before I call for the vote that I'm very thrilled about this appointment. Some fun facts that people don't know about Marcy is that she is a whiz of a typer. She is an incredible typer, like 1 million words per minute. And I just want to also say to Marcy, it is especially hard in these times to be the front face of City Hall and to welcome people, answer their questions, and talk to them about difficult situations like paying their water bill these days. You have been graceful and you have been kind, and from the bottom of my heart, customer service is not something I think that you can teach. It's just something that you have inside of you. And so I'm very grateful that that is just who you are, and that you bring sunshine to City Hall with that, with those qualities. So I'm very excited to see you ascend to treasurer.
And if she graces you with her banana bread, you will swear there's opium in it because you will become addicted.
But there won't be.
No, there's not.
And Tawny, it's actually my girls that make the banana bread. It's like one of their favorite things to do. But it's an old time recipe that I've had in the family for a long time. So
it is so good.
And I just want to say thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for considering me for the treasurer position. Joel has been a huge support. Rachel Senta, even though she's no longer here. Clint has been a great support to me as well, being the new finance director and also coming in during one of the hardest times that I think we are going to see in our lifetime. And so I appreciate that support. Danny has been a huge support to me, plus my team. You know, without a team, you can't really succeed. It takes more than just me. It takes all of us, like not just in my office, but as a city. So I couldn't be more excited or honored, and I do hope that it is a favorable vote for me as well tonight. So thank you all.
Did you want to share anything?
I can just say that Marcy's been awesome. I mean, I haven't been there very long, but in the short time I've been with her, she's been nothing but great. It's awesome to walk in in that front office, and she's always got a smile on her face, and she's very energetic and willing to get things done with a positive attitude. So she's been awesome.
Well, thank you so much. Any other discussion or comments? Okay, it's a electronic meeting, so I need to roll call the vote. Hold on just 1 second. Okay, Mike,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Kaylin,
Aye.
Ronnie,
Aye.
Tawny.
Aye.
Did I skip anyone? No. Motion passes unanimously 5-0.
Thank you guys so much.
Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being interested in taking on this job. I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, section 9, approval of the bills against the city of Moab. Tawny, is there a motion?
There is. I move to pay the bills in the amount of $110,866.52.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mike. Tawny, any discussion?
No, they were a lot less this time than they have been. I didn't notice anything that was terribly outstanding.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Roll call vote. Kaylin,
Aye.
Tawny,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Ronnie.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you all for an excellent meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tawny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Everybody have a great evening. Thanks for a good electronic meeting. Have a good night.
Good night.